Hello everybody, Shrouded Hand here, and today we're going to look at a very strange phenomena from India known as puppy pregnancy syndrome. This is a widely held belief in parts of India amongst both rural and city dwellers. Puppy pregnancy syndrome is the belief that when a person is bitten by a dog, particularly a dog that is sexually excited at the time, the victim is impregnated and the puppies begin to grow within that person's body. And perhaps the strangest thing is, it is both women and men that are believed to be affected by this puppy pregnancy. Some people believe that the puppies can't grow to full term inside the human host, and so they die and become toxic, leading to an agonizing death for the human as the dead puppies inside them start to rot and decay. Others believe that the puppies can and do come to full term within the bodies, and for women having the correct equipment they can pass them naturally, but for men it's much worse. If treatment isn't sought quickly enough from a local oja, a kind of folk doctor, the puppies grow, causing unimaginable pain and suffering, the shifting of their bodies and the scraping of the sharp claws against the inside of the person's body. In men, the puppies are said to emerge from any available orifice, the most common being through his genitalia, killing him in the process. I found one report, and this provides some pretty disturbing imagery. A young man describes an incident from his childhood in which he witnessed puppies emerging from a man's nostrils and mouth, whining and crying for their mother. These animals were as long and as thick as his forefinger. And the same report also describes what happens if the puppies aren't ejected from the body and continue to grow within the human. When they grow up, they have nails in their paws and they start scratching inside. They start scratching the body from the inside. He will have all blood inside and his intestines will be destroyed. He will die. He will die with the puppies in the wound and in his body. And whilst poor education could be assumed to be the main source of this belief, a study carried out in 2003 featured people from all strata of society, from children to university graduates. One graduate in particular became so terrified that he'd been impregnated following a minor scratch from a street dog that he locked himself away in his home. During the interview with researchers, he was convinced that dogs were going to run out from under the table as he was talking to them. In another case, a milkman suffered a bite from driving a dog away from one of his milk cans. This led to a severe downturn in his mental health as he felt that all of his milk had been contaminated by the dogs. Due to his incessant rantings about his product being contaminated by dogs, local people refused to buy his milk, and this resulted in the failure of his business. He then fell into a depression and his symptoms worsened, and every day he expected to die in agony after delivering puppies through his manhood. He even visited local folk healers several times. He was given potions that would supposedly dissolve the dog fetuses inside him, but the medicine and incantations failed to stop his anxiety. 2 other people came to the researchers for help following minor dog bites. They both had the same symptoms, an agonizing sensation of a dog fetus moving inside them, nausea, weakness, weight loss. All of these they associated with the puppy pregnancy. They had both used potions from the folk doctor and had even seen reddish bits of puppy fetal parts in their urine. A 45-year-old woman named Sarita, a resident of Bihar in East India, was interviewed, and she said, "You feel itchy because they move, and you also feel a lot of pain because they bite your stomach. Of course, you become mad. How can you not become mad with what is happening inside your abdomen?" And these are just details from a small handful of cases. Other victims have even displayed spontaneous dog-like barking, with some even hearing the puppies themselves from within their own bodies. Apparently the belief is real to large numbers of the population. A study in 2003 saw that out of a random group of 42 people in Calcutta, 73% believed in puppy pregnancy syndrome with absolute certainty. Another study carried out in 2018 lends some credence to a theory that's been brewing in the back of my mind as I've been plunging down this particular rabbit hole: rabies. According to some studies, rabies kills 59,000 people a year, and 21,000 of these are in India alone. In India, someone is bitten by a rabid animal every 2 seconds, and somebody dies of rabies every 30 minutes. And as you probably know, rabies is a horrific way to die. Could this virus and its horrible effects have traumatized entire generations of people and metamorphosed into such a belief as puppy pregnancy syndrome? As I say, you're probably familiar with rabies. It is, after all, the oldest known virus. It's been terrifying and blighting the human race for over 4,000 years. From mentions in ancient Mesopotamian writings to instances in modern popular culture, it always seems to have been with us. In dogs, rabies causes a variety of worrying symptoms. It first attacks the brain, swelling it inside the skull of the animal, causing massive trauma before heading out along the nerves to infect the rest of the body. The animals become unreasonably fearful, incredibly aggressive. They might become dazed with a zombie-like staggering gait. Most famously, as rabies is spread through the saliva, the virus causes excessive drooling or frothing at the mouth. A dog infected with rabies is a terrifying sight to behold, especially in an animal that man often holds so close to his heart. And any warm-blooded mammal can be infected with rabies. The most common carriers of rabies in other parts of the world are bats, who are known to carry even more terrifying strains of the virus. Another name for rabies is Lissa virus. Lissa is an ancient Greek name whose meaning is closely linked to the word lycos or wolf. It is used to invoke images and feelings of an animalistic anger, madness and rage. Many academics even link historic accounts of rabies to the origins of the classic monster myths: the vampire, the zombie, werewolves. In humans, the effect of rabies is devastating. It changes the sufferer both physically and mentally. Following a bite, depending on where it was inflicted, the person has a limited amount of time to get medical attention. A wound on the foot would give more time than, say, a bite on the face. It's all about how close it is to the brain. Development of the virus can take weeks or even up to a year. You might get bitten by a stray cat on holiday and forget all about it, and then a year later it suddenly develops into a full-blown terminal rabies. Early symptoms are much like flu: fever, headaches, a bit of a sore throat. This worsens to an itching around the bite area, and then it causes nausea and vomiting. As the virus takes hold of your nerve tissue, the victim suffers from agonizing muscle spasms. Then their neck muscles become frozen. They get convulsions and sudden periods of aggression, all mixed up with bouts of weakness and partial paralysis as the virus infects the host body. He also develops hydrophobia. He becomes unable to swallow water because it causes such terrible convulsions in the throat, and this keeps the virus concentrated in the mouth. Another strange symptom is hypersensitivity to light, drafts and wind. As the patient spirals into this terminal stage, dipping in and out of consciousness, he suffers from nightmares, hallucinations, and eventually falls into a coma and then death. The coma often only comes at the end of over a week of unimaginable suffering. There's many videos online showing rabies victims in these terminal stages, and they're often pretty grim. It's definitely up there with one of the worst ways to die, and that says a lot coming from the sort of things I cover on this channel. Throughout the last century, the treatment for rabies was often considered to be gruesome and horrific in its own right. If a bite victim managed to get medical attention in time, he would be treated with a nervous tissue vaccine. This was often made from the brains of dead sheep. This treatment was known in some parts of India as the 14 dogs. It was administered through 14 painful injections to the stomach area. The gigantic size of the needles and the impact of this notorious treatment has almost become an urban legend in itself in some communities in India. Also, this treatment could sometimes cause terrible side effects: swelling to the spinal cord, scarring of the nerves, destroying bowel or bladder function, causing permanent issues with breathing, weakness, partial or total paralysis, and even death. The 14 dogs or nervous tissue vaccine treatment has been largely discontinued throughout the world, and the recommended treatment for rabies is now through normal injections in the upper arm. It could be that the injection site of the notorious 14 dogs has somehow embedded the idea in the culture at large that rabies dwells in the stomach. This and high levels of poverty, lack of healthcare facilities, and just how widespread this belief is means that most dog bites would go untreated by healthcare professionals as people seek help from these Oja, the folk healers. Perhaps these puppy dissolving potions that people are consuming are actually causing some of the symptoms of the puppy pregnancy, like pain, vomiting and bloody urine, the side effects of the medicine being used to prove that the medicine is working. So, could the belief in puppy pregnancy syndrome be caused by the memory of the 14 dogs injection, or is it some sort of misunderstanding of the nature of rabies itself? Maybe, and this is a big maybe. Dogs in India really can infect human beings with puppies just by biting them. Belief in puppy pregnancy syndrome is another example of one of those culture-bound syndromes. I think I've talked about them in some previous videos. Certain medical conditions that only appear in certain cultures because of their cultural belief in them. I find them interesting because it shows the link between our mental well-being and our physical health, how the belief in something can manifest physical symptoms. I don't know if it goes as far as causing people to manifest physical puppies inside themselves which they eject from their bodies, but it's strange that so many people believe in it and the condition is widely unknown outside of that part of the world. Anyway, this has been a weird one. I don't think I'll ever look at a puppy in the same way again. I've got a rescue dog from Romania and luckily she's pretty old, so she doesn't have any teeth to bite me with anyway. So, thank you for watching, and a huge thank you to the patrons who are helping support the channel. Apologies if the content is coming out a bit slowly this month. I've kind of had a lot of doctor's appointments and hospital appointments, and I'm being rushed in for emergency surgery. Thankfully not to remove puppies from my body, but still it's kind of holding me up a bit. But I've got some good stuff coming out, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks once again for watching, and see you next time. Goodbye.